Have you ever started reading a manga, got invested in it, and after reading for 3 continuous hours, you find out it's the monthly updates, or even worse, hiatus? That moment sums up the life of an average manga reader. But you are not destined to be average because you clicked this video. This video, I have gathered 3 seinen masterpiece mangas, which are excellent in storytelling, peak in character development, and most importantly, finished. Also, these barely have more than 10,000 MyAnimeList members, while some Dead Age manga have over 100,000 members. This proves how garbage our taste is as a community. Fear not, I have come to rescue. Summit of the Gods. From the master Jiro Taniguchi himself comes one of the greatest and most gripping high altitude stories you will ever find. I love Taniguchi's work, the detailed background, soft flow of the reading, and the calm moments. At its core, it's about early days of mountaineering and its achievements. More specifically, it's about the passions and motivations of the two main characters, Makoto Fukamachi and Joji Habu. Plot kicks off when Fukamachi stumbles upon a camera in a shop that could have belonged to George Mallory. Mallory attempted to summit Everest but disappeared with his colleague Irvin, and no one knows if they actually made it to the top. If they did, it would have been first in human history. While investigating, Fukamachi finds himself more interested in the man who found the camera, piecing together his past. We follow Fukamachi's investigation into both the camera's origins and the mysterious Habu, who's been hiding in Nepal for several years now. Habu was once a prodigy in the alpinism world, capable of climbing dangerous summits with ease. But one day he disappeared without a trace. I never imagined a story about the mountains would be so addicting, but it's so well put together. The tension, the emotion, the hard work it takes to carefully climb a difficult summit, one step at a time. You look at mountain climbing with new eyes after this series. Ship of Theseus. It was a complex and interesting read. It draws inspiration from the well-known paradox of the Ship of Theseus and turns it into a mystery thriller. The paradox asks, is an object the same object after its components have been replaced over time? This is what the manga analyzes, but the core is mystery thriller. You start with the classical murder mystery, and it expands into something more, with a focus on family and destiny. A mass murder in a village, while many of the victims were children, marks a family with a lifetime of shame and condemnation. San, the father, and a former policeman, is accused of this horrific act, but even 28 years later he still claims he is innocent. Shin, his son, now has his own life, a wife and a baby on the way. The consequences of that event still haunt him. Unfortunately, his wife passes during childbirth, and Shin decides to investigate his father's case thoroughly to prove his innocence. In this manga, the characters are three-dimensional and real with dreams, aspirations, and flaws. This is where the paradox of the ship gets explored through the stories of each character and how they change over time. There are tense moments of distrust, lies, and critical thinking, which I enjoy the most. I believe this manga deserves a lot more exposure than it definitely have right now. A Journal of My Father. Yet again we are witnessing the masterpiece of Jiro Taniguchi. Often we see our parents as perfect beings, bastions of justice. However, over the course of life, we realize this ideal is merely a reflection of a child's naive gaze, a gaze that fades proportionate to lost innocence. With the emergence of a critical perception of world during adolescence, we frequently blame our parents for actions or decisions they made during our upbringing. This complex relationship of hatred, remorse, and guilt is portrayed perfectly in this manga. Yuichi distanced himself from his father, absorbed by work and harboring resentment. He hasn't visited him for more than a decade. And when he receives the news of his father's passing and flies back to his hometown, he doesn't know how he should feel. This story deals with extremely delicate issues for those who have childhood trauma, especially related to their parents. Yuichi experienced profound loneliness, lost in a world without the support of his father, who wasn't as present as he would have liked, and definitely without help from his mother, who abandoned him. The lack of foundation that parents usually provide resulted in growing resentment, especially towards his father. He felt betrayed. As the narrative unfolds, we realize that things are not always as our minds interpret and make us believe. The manga leads us to reflect on the limited perspective we often have regarding our parents. Throughout the story, he begins to understand the reasons behind his father's emotional absence. His father was also dealing with his own issues, trying to balance responsibilities and pressures that fell upon him. He had to raise two children alone after his wife's departure, support a household, and rely on another woman for assistance because it was practically impossible to manage both work and home alone. This revelation is a crucial point for Yuichi, who begins to reassess his own perceptions and resentment. Beyond the story itself, it shows us that not everything is as our perspective makes us believe. We often harbor resentment against people due to a lack of proper understanding of the situation. We blame others to justify problems in our lives. This read was a masterpiece, a great work that doesn't entertain us but also shows us how life can be difficult for everyone while we view it only from our own perspective. There you have it, three absolute masterpieces sitting in the shadows, while trash gets hundreds of thousands of reads. Don't be part of the problem. And if you think these were intense, my last video covered a manga so disturbing it will haunt you for weeks.